Aristocrats.
The Aristocrats, another deck that uses Cartel Aristocrat. The third one to enter the standard format so far. Uses it a little more aggressively. Curious to see. Oh, this board looks a little not great for Lauren. He is up a game though, so he'll have another chance to fix it, even if he loses this one. Looks like he just lost a Sorin or sacrificed it for its emblem. I'm not sure which.
Now, if I remember correctly, Nolen has only one Zealous Conscripts between his main and sideboard, but I'm not sure about that.
Maybe that... Huh. Obsdat? That's an Obsdat. I assume that means our Cavern is on Advisor or Spirit. one of the two.
Good memory.
Amusingly enough, Cartel Aristocrat, also an Advisor. Learned that in the deck tech I did with Andy Ferguson, actually.
Thragtusk.
Cavern is on Spirit. Oh, sounds like we missed out on value then with Advisor. Jeez.
Thragtusk comes in for a total of 8 life gain, 5 for itself and 3 for Tristani. Tristani makes a small spirit for another 1 life.
Sure, that's cute. It'll hold off Obsdat. He's basically mitigating the life loss from Obsdat down to just 1 a turn with Tristani backing it. And he can chump block the guy for days.
Nolen, no stranger to success, playing against Caleb Durward. Probably along with, as I've said earlier today, along with Conley Woods, one of the most well-respected rogue deck builders in the game currently.
Yeah, he's a brewmaster for sure. This deck he's playing is actually an oldie goldie, though. Junk Ramp Reanimator, he's added only 2 Gatecrash cards to the deck, and they're Godless Shrines.
For a lot of decks, all that they really need is that little touch of extra mana.
Yep. Lauren is going very aggressive with these Sorins. Obviously, there's a Curse of Death's Hold in play, so that seems like the direction to go. Boosting it against all those Spirit tokens, probably not getting him anywhere very fast.
Another Thragtusk, another 8 life.
This game appears to be slipping out of Lauren's reach at this point.
In comes the team. One of them at the Vampire Lord of Innistrad. Back comes Obsidat. Take 2. Drain 2, rather.
This is an interesting scenario where Obsidat's Blink is actually the most effective form of defense that he can muster. He can't block anything that's attacking, and effectively at least.
Passes, says go. Another Spirit from Caleb Durward, another life. Tristani here, just causing a populate effect to continue to bring little 1/1s into play.
Yeah, Caleb's running a split on Tristani's and Rock's Faithmenders. I imagine he's pretty happy with that split in this matchup because Rock's Faithmender doesn't seem like a card I would even board in against Lauren Nolen, but Tristani, definitely pulling her weight.
And Caleb rearranging so he can get his attackers in a row.
We appreciate that here in the booth.
Boom! Here they come. And Lauren's like, okay, you got me.
How much
That's
is that?
all good.
Enough. Enough, Caleb says sagely.
To our third game.
Actually, Caleb would say a pile of damage. That's one of his units of measurement that he relies upon, a pile of. I have not yet ascertained exactly how much it is.
Caleb Durward, unmistakable there on the right. Lauren Nolen, you can see on the left. Now, I can't remember his top finish at a Star City Games event, but I think it was the Invitational in Atlanta that he top 8'd this last year.
Who? I'm sorry, Lauren Nolen?
He
He won, I believe, the Baltimore, I want to say. It was yeah,
an
I'm pretty
opener
sure.
and invitational.
Invitational, yes.
Okay.
He's one of our...
Oh, that's right. He did win that invitational. Okay.
After a marathon top 8 match against Max Tietz,
yeah, that's it.
He moved on to beat Michael Hetrick in the finals.
I could not remember if he got first or second there. I was thinking second, so... Hetrick
wishes it had gone another way, I'm sure, but... Lauren did, in fact, clinch the win, playing Blue-White Delver, one of the many to pilot that deck to success over the year.
One of the things that's really been awesome about the Star City Games Open Series is we've really seen it drive what Standard is. Basically, every week having huge events like this has meant that the metagame really gets honed down and kind of hammered into this really, really sharp weapon for the most part. We saw this very much so with Cawblade, for example, where over many months, Cawblade just spent weeks and weeks and weeks fighting against itself to find out what was the best Cawblade deck, essentially.
Yeah, there's a lot of inbreeding that resulted. Cards like Spell Pierce that you would not have expected to become like standard all-stars, just because tempo was so important in that matchup, wound up being relatively important to fight off Jaces. One of the most interesting weeks for me, at least, watching standard formats develop are weeks like this and presumably the next one, where we have a Pro Tour with a group of highly talented players looking to snap the format and bring something new to it. In contrast to the players who are mostly playing what they've seen or what they've been handed. A lot of players tend to stick to the same decks they've seen. A few brewers out there, like Caleb, but even today, you see Caleb playing a deck that's tried and true. So as we see these Pro Tour decks, specifically what we're seeing right now, Lauren Nolen's The Aristocrats, get introduced to the environment, things can change. It actually spins it in a lot of different directions. You see a lot of new cards seen play.
I like how you bring up that particular dynamic because those are very, very different forces. At a Pro Tour, you have people often working together in small little secret cabals trying to figure out what they can do to bust things wide open. And so there's often a lot more room for innovation. And at the Star City Games events, a lot of people play in the open. There's not so much secrecy. There's the expectation that information will end up being spread throughout the open series.
Yeah.
So it's a very different kind of mindset that happens, particularly because, when it comes to people making new decks, there really aren't very many people that can consistently do it. So you can see Caleb here, as we said before, a brewmaster, going back in time with a few updates in the forms of lands from Gatecrash. But sometimes that's all you need to make something really change what it can do. Yeah,
Caleb cited, I did a deck tech with Caleb actually that you can also find on the site, and he cited specifically that this deck matches up very well against some of the hyper aggro decks, and he really likes it against the control decks. Many of them he considers a virtual buy based on the strength of turn 3 Garrick being unanswerable for many of them.
Now, turn 3 Garrick, he actually has 12 cards in his deck that accelerate him to that. Between Avacyn's Pilgrim, Farseek, and the last one is Arbor Elf.
Yep.
Between those cards, he has 12 cards, which will increase his chance to get that 5 mana on turn 3.
Among the more interesting cards that Caleb's running is he's sideboarding Nevermore for the control matchup, which he generally uses, he said, to name Sphinx's Revelation. Basically flips the matchup on its ear, where he's the one with the card draw in the form of Garrick, and they're the ones struggling to keep up. Not a position that most Sphinx's Revelation decks are designed to face off in.
Particularly since Caleb could theoretically drop that bomb on turn 2.
Against Lauren Nolen, he's playing something a little different, obviously. Lauren's deck is, I wouldn't expressly categorize it as an aggro deck. It's certainly not a control deck. It can kind of grind a lot of angles at you.
This is a mid-range aggro deck. If you look at the way that archetypes work, he is a beatdowny deck, but it's in that mid-range space. In a lot of ways, this makes it kind of similar to the Jundlists we used to see a million years ago.
Sure.
With the Thrynaxes and the Bloodbraid Elf and the Leech, the Putrid Leech, in the sense that it's putting a lot of stuff on the table, it's making an aggressive play of things, but it has this ability to be grindy as well.
I think that Caleb was probably reasonably soft in game 1, where he's a little weaker on stuff like Boros Reckoner and relying a little more heavily on Garrick and Angel of Serenity to actually bring the game around. Cards which Lauren can actually relatively easily answer, considering he can go very aggressive against the Garricks, and he has access to, I presume, the same Orzhov charms that I know members of Team SCG were playing, which are excellent answers to Angel of Serenity. But post-board, Caleb can do things like the Tristani we just saw, like the Curse of Death's Hold, things Lauren probably wasn't even expecting.
Now, one of the things that I really like about Caleb's deck, actually, as you said, this is kind of a blast from the past. he goes really big with Angel of Serenity, and he has that late game endless Angel of Serenity loop that he has access to. Just essentially one Angel of Serenity being able to bring back another Angel of Serenity. And so if it goes to a late game, Caleb can expect to win, and Caleb's deck is actually built with that in mind. And I don't know, this seems like a really, really interesting choice today. We've watched him earlier play against a nearly mono-red Boros deck, white just for Boros Charm, and he basically tore that deck open with his defensive capabilities. Here we go with Game 3. Loren Nolen on the play. Uh-oh.
Caleb Durward steals the play.
At Arbor Elf, almost a time walk, so much so that Caleb Durward pays life to make it happen. Turn 2, champion of the parish comes out and is going to see what Caleb Durward does on turn 2.
Appears to be considering some options, but...
Attack!
All right.
Are we going to see a Farseek? Oh, okay.
Whoa!
And that is 2 more mana accelerators, another Arbor Elf, and a Avacyn's Pilgrim. He potentially has access to 6 mana next turn.
That's a lot, and whatever he plays is likely to outclass whatever Loren has access to. He's going to be interested in racing, which means he'll be relying on Falconwrath Aristocrat, which he does have in his hand. Until then, he's got what looks like a Champion of the Parish. It's a Doom Traveler, I'm sorry. And he's probably considering using his Orzhov Charm here. He could have played a Cartel Aristocrat, I think, but he declined to. Yeah, it looks like he's going to go ahead and Orzhov Charm Avacyn's Pilgrim, I imagine.
Yeah, I don't have any problem with this whatsoever. I mean, it's possible Caleb has a Thragtusk in hand and does not have that extra land. There's lots of reasons why that's a really excellent play, and we'll see what happens.
It's very easy that Caleb could just not have white mana here. The Avacyn's Pilgrim would let him access cards like potentially Rock's Faithmender if he brought that in, or Lingering Souls being the primary concern. And indeed, Loren's read is right.
Wow.
Caleb lacks a land.
Well done, Loren Nolen. That was a great play.
I imagine we'll see Falconwrath Aristocrat join the party now.
There it is.
There it is. And everyone comes in.
And I'm sure Caleb will block none of it. That's 7 damage.
He did bring in those Rock's Faithmenders. You can see one in his hand, so he can recover from a board state like this, but he'll need white mana.
And he looks like he did not get a land again.
Without white mana this turn, that's going to be mostly lights out for Caleb. He's not dead yet, but he's certainly getting close.
End of the turn, Loren Nolen sacrifices his human, the Doomed Traveler, to the Falconwrath Aristocrat in order to give it +1/+1 token forever and a spirit.
If he does have a Cartel Aristocrat in his hand, then he's pushing lethal now. And I think he does. He's going to go with Champion, though, first. He just drew that.
Oh, wow.
Well, that'll earn a chump on the Champion of the Parish. And I think that will effectively lock the game up. Caleb's not dead over the next turn, or maybe even the next 2, but I don't think he has any cards in his list that can pull him back from this kind of discrepancy.
In the 75 cards, he only has 2 removal spells, and that is 2 copies of... oh, there we go. And that's it.
Wow, Loren's aggressive start really paid off. He was on the play.